Goku! Catch!
Got it! Thanks, Corin! Bye!
Give him hell, Goku!
Hello everyone, this is Poohhead189, and today we are going to talk about one of the most pivotal aspects of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. Something extremely unique to Earth, and something that might be as valuable as the Dragon Balls, and that is the Senzu bean, as well as their grower, Korin. Korin is introduced in Chapter 88 of the original manga, and Episode 60 of the Dragon Ball anime, while the Senzu bean is introduced in the 89th chapter of the original manga, so the next chapter, and Episode 62 of the Dragon Ball anime. The Senzu bean is a type of bean that is grown by Corin, the sacred watcher at the top of Corin Tower. Now, Corin is far, far more than a kitty gardener. Corin is a martial arts master. In fact, some literally call him the god of martial arts, and a sort of quasi-deity that lives at the penultimate way station before meeting the god of Earth, nearly reaching the heavens. He is wise, and far stronger and quicker than one might think, and sort of gives Goku a proto-version of the training he would eventually get from Kami and Popo. He teaches Goku to watch his enemy's movements, so his opponent would have a more difficult time surprising him, and he could better read his enemy. This lesson, hammered into Goku by the 3 days of chasing Corin, as well as the exercise, allows Goku to descend Corin Tower and defeat mercenary Tao, or Tao Pepe. Corin also acts as an intermediary between the people of Earth and Kami, and only those who get permission from Corin can go and see Kami. We also need to remember that Corin is the keeper and guardian of many special items, such as the sacred divine water, as well as the flying nimbus or Quinto-un. But let us move on to the special crop Corin makes. Now, if you've seen any amount of Dragon Ball, you generally know what the Senzu bean does. It heals wounds and restores stamina, something that is obviously very important for a fighter. However, it should be noted that the first time the Senzu bean is introduced, Corin does not give it to Goku to heal him, he gives it to Goku to sate his hunger. It's much like how one describes limbus bread from Lord of the Rings, except the Senzu bean is even more potent. Instead of filling your stomach like a single meal, it can fill you up so you don't have to eat for another 10 days. Now, while that obviously would have a lesser effect on someone with a Saiyan's appetite, it does, in fact, fill Goku up immediately upon eating it. And on second thought, it likely helps Goku, who has a Saiyan's appetite, make it to Namek, even with the limited amount of food that they can put in the spaceship that he uses. Especially because during Goku's training, he eats a bunch of Senzu beans. But we need to consider, with how quickly people heal from ingestion, this means the bean cannot possibly do what it does from digestion. It does not have the time to even fully go down the user's throat to the stomach, much less make it into the bloodstream. So while this bean is obviously fantastical in its capabilities, this should make it explicit it is inherently magical in nature, or its properties follow laws that aren't known yet. However, since Corin makes them, and he's the only one to make them that we know of, we can assume they aren't just magical, they would be divine, would probably be the better term. So one could think of them as like the biblical concept of mana, or manna, except obviously with different properties, but it would be a divine food. So we need to remember Senzu beans are notoriously difficult to grow, and since only one being grows them, that means they are exceedingly rare. This means the Z fighters cannot rely on Senzu bean spam for everything, and unfortunately, Senzu beans become rarer. In Future Trunks' timeline, they are extinct, and this seems to be happening in the Buu saga potentially, because when Goku goes to Korin's to get Senzu beans for Videl, Goku says the beans have not been growing lately. This could either mean things have been peaceful the past 7 years, so Corin has not bothered to make them, or that they are slowly becoming extinct like the alternate timeline, we just don't know. Now, what we need to do is figure out just how effective Senzu beans are. We know they healed the Z fighters many times, Likely the most grievous wounds were Yamcha and Goku getting impaled at different parts of the story. Yamcha being impaled by Android 20, and Goku being impaled by Piccolo's mouth blast at the finale of the 23rd tournament. So it can readily heal horrific bodily wounds. In fact, and I've been wanting to say this for a while, there's a moment in the Ocean dub after Tien gets his arm knocked off by Nappa, where Tien tells Nappa, just wait till it grows back, which people have derided the dub for endlessly. And while I'm not about to hail the Ocean dub as super manga accurate, what people never remember is that with a Senzu bean, his arm can in fact grow back. We learn about this in the small manga special on Future Trunks' timeline, where future Gohan laments that the Senzu beans are extinct, and it is stated that he could have regrown his arm if they were around. And a Senzu bean is so effective, one can even break it in half, and it will heal cuts, bruises, and you will regain all of your energy, like Krillin and Gohan after fighting the Cybermen and Nappa. Senzu beans also appear to work no matter how strong one has become, which is different than certain healing magics. Kibito's healing magic cannot fully heal Gohan back to his full strength, since Gohan is so powerful. And before you say anything, it does seem to be different than the energy transfer Goku does to revitalize Frieza, as Kibito heals Gohan once again after Buu defeated him as a Super Saiyan 2. This means a Senzu bean's divine strength is beyond what a user could practically do with their own strength. I have heard it said they were based on lima beans, but I could not find a source for that. However, they do certainly have that appearance. And in the anime, Yajirobe also describes them as tasting like fish to some extent. Now, we have a list of all the times characters have used Senzu beans. Initially, I was going to count them, but it appears the official Dragon Ball site has already counted, so we can go through it. Now, this is for the original manga, not Dragon Ball Super. And we know that Videl gets 1, Cell gets 1, Future Trunks gets 2, Yamcha gets 2, which seems low for Yamcha, but it is true. Gohan gets 2.5, Piccolo gets 3, and Krillin gets 3.5, Piccolo gets 5, and when I was making this video and I looked at this, I was thinking, like, does Vegeta really get 6? Like, that seemed really high. But I'll put it on the screen, but I put this link in the chat with my friends, and I was like, wait a second, this doesn't seem right. But then I kind of did some mental math there for a moment and typed out my thoughts, and I'm like, no, yeah. He does get 6, yeah, I counted them all. But it just seemed very strange to me. I was like, does this count Super? No, this was in the original manga, that's true. And Goku, of course, gets 11, although I don't know how many they really count for Goku, considering he probably takes many during his trip to Namek. So it's probably 11, quote-unquote, on screen. And of course, Yajirobe has the most, with just a whole handful that he shoves into his mouth, which then shows us how dangerous they can be if you eat more than one, because Yajirobe, who has a Saiyan-like appetite and who ate Symbol pretty quickly, a giant monster, he almost burst open from it. So yeah, never eat more than one Senzu bean at once. Now, something people often point out is the discrepancy with Tien and Yamcha's scars not being healed by the beans. But this can be explained easily. Firstly, after they received their scars, they did not use Senzu beans until they, well, scarred. And by that point, it likely would just be a part of their normal body rather than a wound the bean would target. And secondly, and this is potentially something that we can look at, something else we should also consider is that after they receive the scars, they both die and reach the afterlife before they eat another Senzu bean, that we see at least. Plus, the bodies they receive in the afterlife also have the scars, so it does seem to be a part of their normal anatomy now. Also, something that I spoke about in a previous video that my patron Autumn brought up was how Tien might have a reduced lifespan due to the fact that he spammed the Neo Tri-Beam or Shin Kikoho against Semi-Perfect Cell, and then I pointed out, but then he had a Senzu Bean, which seems that it also restores Genki, or life energy, and since it is a divine item, that is likely the case. So it could potentially even do that. Also, it is difficult to tell how long ago the Senzu Bean was made or invented, but in the manga, Corin tells us he himself is over 800 years old. And though I doubt it, I picture this giving Corin a big parallel to Yoda, who was also a short but powerful master who was around that exact age. In fact, according to the Daizenshuu, Corin is around the same age as Bandage's the Mummy, and both are born around -50 age, which is essentially 50 BC for Dragon Ball. This means that when Goku was born, Corin was 787 years old, and when Goku comes to visit him for the first time, Corin should be almost exactly 800 years old, give or take a year. Corin also has different colored fur in the manga and in the Daizenshuu, as well as in the anime. Originally, his fur is blue, and then for the full color in the anime, it is white, as we are all used to. However, on the cover of the Daizenshuu 7, he has brown fur. And while Goku outstrips him in power soon after meeting him, Corin remains a respected and wise figure. He can both sense power and read minds, and I think we all remember when Mastered Super Saiyan Goku, after leaving the Time Chamber, doesn't go to Piccolo for Kami's thoughts, or Roshi or King Kai, he visits Corin, still respecting his old master's immense skills and gauging his strength in comparison to Cell's. We also know that Akira Toriyama designed Corin off of his sleeping cat, but not many people know the source for this. It comes from small snippets of Toriyama in the manga, actually, and I'll read 2 excerpts here. Okay, in one of them, Toriyama says, "This is our cat, Kogi. You probably can't tell what the heck is going on since she's so black, but here she is. We picked her up one night 3 years ago as a kitten, and she's a real sweetie and a total nudge. While she was giving birth to her litter, I really worried and I made a huge fuss over her, but there weren't any complications, and she had 4 healthy and teeny tiny kittens. We were so happy. By the way, my wife was the one who named her." Now that's really sweet, actually. And then the second excerpt talks about how he made Corin. In the manga, it'll show a picture of Kogi, I believe, and he says, "My cat Kogi, who is overjoyed that our warm kotatsu was set up early this year. He doesn't need much. Incidentally, Lord Corin was inspired by Kogi's sleeping face." So there it is. That rumor has been confirmed to be, yes, that is correct. Now, before I finish the video, going back to Senzu beans for a second, I want to point out that the very concept of the Senzu bean and its crazy properties are lost on the members of Frieza's empire, be they the Saiyans, the Ginyu Force, or anyone not of Earth. This brings us to a small point, and though this point was not entirely deliberate from Toriyama's mind, it does occur. And that point is the adverse effects that the colonialism and the imperialism of Frieza's empire has on the universe. The reason why we only know of a few places in the universe that have mysticism or divine items is because many of these civilizations have been destroyed due to planets being cleared of life or simply blown up. If the Saiyans had their way, they would have conquered Earth and sold it off, or destroyed it, destroying its naturally unique properties, which includes the Dragon Balls, the magical races, and of course, the Senzu beans. Both the beans, as well as Corin, are unique aspects to the Earth, and a really interesting part of the Dragon Ball universe itself. Okay, if you enjoyed this video and believe I deserve it, please give a like and a comment. I always appreciate subscriptions, and sharing always helps. I'm at 35 patrons right now, hoping to reach 100 sometime in the near future. If you have a small bit of change, it would be a great Christmas present, and it would mean the world to me if you could help support the channel. But if not, no worries. Also, recently I made a video on Sith alchemy for some Star Wars lore from my other channel, if you're interested. All links, including the Sith video, will be in the description below. Alright, thanks guys. See ya!